It's Tom Strong again, and I'm pleased to start the second half of our sessions. This session is with SolidCAD, and we have Jay Polding and Lichu Chen, who's going to be giving a presentation here on collaboration technologies. SolidCAD is one of the resellers. They sell a number of different products and technologies and help with consulting, but they have expertise specifically in the Autodesk suite of products, and have a lot of capability around the Autodesk cloud products that facilitate communication. So pretty excited to learn more about that. That's Autodesk has really been pushing the envelope, evolving those tools, creating opportunities for the design community and the construction community to collaborate more closely. And this technology kind of bridges all that information across the whole project lifecycle. They both have a tremendous amount of experience, more than 10 years working in the industry, helping thousands of clients through training and implementations and evolving their businesses. So pretty excited to hear about their perspective. And Jay was also instrumental in forming the Revit users group in Ontario. So he's been involved with the CAN-BIM community and the larger BIM and technology community across our industry for a number of years, which has really helped to move all this technology forward for us. So that's my introduction there. I'm going to stick around for Q&A at the end. Just a reminder, there's with the chat box, there is a tab specifically for questions. So instead of putting it into the general chat area, if you could put your questions into the chat tab, the question tab, that would be very helpful. That way we can organize those for the Q&A session. And I think if you put in your questions as you come up with them, Jay will try to facilitate and answer some of those questions as we go to make it a little bit more interactive. So with that, I'm going to turn it over, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. And we're happy to present here our take on collaborating stronger together. Jay Polding, I'm an industry account manager for AEC market. Just want to talk a little bit about SolidCAD just for a minute or two. Tom did a good introduction. I just want to add to that. Recently, we've updated our mission and vision statements, and sometimes these are a little vague, but I really think it describes in a nutshell who we are and then what our aspirations are. So our mission is to deliver technology innovations that improve our clients' productivity, sustainability, and profitability outcomes. So it's nice to see that sustainable aspect in there as well. And that's what we do now. And what are our aspirations? Well, we want to be the chosen partner transforming how Canadians conceptualize, construct, and manufacture what comes next. So, the key word there is chosen partner, I think. Yes, we are the largest platinum partner in Canada. We're across the country. We have the largest team of industry experts and all that good stuff. We're in both official languages too, which is handy, which is very important as well. But really, the chosen partner, how do you become a chosen partner? Well, communication, good communication. And that's really what this session is about. How do we work together stronger? And BIM gives us a lot of great opportunities. It's true. But there are some challenges to communication, even though it is really just a communication workflow. So some of the challenges that we have when we're sharing files, and we're sharing all of these different files we use in the BIM process, there are many different platforms, almost no permission control. You don't really have a lot of control of what's going in, what's going out. And then that can result in out-of-date files. Maybe the Revit file's even a day or two old. And what's changed? See attached, Revit file changes therein. It's sometimes that's a tough part of communication, is because of speed. How do you communicate what has changed in a model that's just changing by the minute? And then there's just hey, what's the latest door family? What's the latest tag family for rebar? Searching for that. looking through files. So these are some of the challenges that Lichu is going to address as she talks about BIM 360 and CTC HIVE. And she'll focus on the benefits of those. I am, as mentioned, I'm going to keep an eye on the chat, and I will answer if possible. And then later we'll have a question period, and we might even ask some questions of you using the poll tool. So I'd just like to introduce Lichu. So Lichu has 15 years of experience in the AEC industry as a CAD and BIM manager. And among other things, she's developed, managed, and implemented BIM execution plans for large, complex projects with project teams worldwide. So she's a lot of industry experience. And with SolidCAD, Lichu is a technical specialist and BIM consultant. And she just does the same thing. She continues to seek to use technology to develop and implement workflows for internal and external design teams to provide greater efficiency, accuracy, and quality in project delivery. So Lichu, we have your attention.
Thank you, Jay, and hello, everyone. So collaboration, you know, whether you're an architect, an engineer, a contractor, or an owner, effective and productive collaboration is essential to any project being completed on time and on budget. Today, that's even more important than ever. And how can we refine our communication with the changes in technology, people's lifestyles, societal changes in order to collaborate actually better? Many tools are out there right now, but they're just actually not designed for design collaboration. You've got FTP sites. They can be expensive and complex to implement, or SharePoint sites. And I'm sure many of you have felt the pain of using VPN to access your files that are residing on your company's servers. And the problem with basic cloud storage, such as a Dropbox or a Google Drive, is that they're just actually not designed to manage design data. CAD files and BIM models are not viewable, and they're not usable there. Therefore, you have to download, and you have to open the models to get any value out of the files themselves. And finally, some of the point cloud solutions, such as Aconex or ProjectWise, these solutions are more tailored for the AEC projects, yes, but they're hard to integrate with other solutions, and they don't support the project lifecycle for collaboration. Do these collaborations and challenges look familiar to you? Okay, people want control and access of this information that's being used. So whether it's internal or external, challenging communication means a lot of wasted times creating PDFs for those non-Revit users, or you're actually being bombarded with numerous emails that are now buried in 100 or so other emails. And did we actually forget to assign someone to download the new backgrounds, and what were the changes that were made? As the projects actually get larger and more complex, there's a higher frequency of data that is rapidly iterated. Historically, syncing and utilizing all this data was impossible, and that has been one of the biggest challenges in our industry. How much time do you think we actually spend transferring files, or do you want to actually have to take work home? And is it easy to actually use Revit to work on those models when you're actually outside the office? Here's where we are today. You've got your two monitors, you've got your headset, you've got Revit, you've got bi-weekly meetings, you know, you're looking at the models, you have someone in that room that's taking notes, and there's probably only one person in that room that probably has the skills to actually navigate around that model. Collaborating Revit certainly has changed. Okay, so back in my days of BIM management, collaborating in one of my biggest projects spread across the globe in 7 offices in various disciplines. Working like this looked like this. I had to work with the company's IT department to develop a workflow that would allow replicating of a huge amounts of data, you know, numerous times throughout the day, to minimize that need to work across the WAN or remote desktop. I had a well thought out and detailed BIM execution plan and BIM standards specifically for the project. Conducted weekly meetings with my BIM coordinators and my client's BIM management team. Conducted bi-weekly Revit coordination meetings, you know, specifically to review clashes. I had to take good notes and screen captures we were taking to capture comments made throughout these meetings. It was a lot of meetings, a lot of writing meeting minutes. And the greatest thing about this project, I'd say, is I literally had the best user groups on this team. And I also had the best project managers whose best friends just happened to be Mr. and Mrs. PDF. Though it was not long ago I did all this work, and it all did work. But could it have actually been done a little bit more efficiently? Definitely. Autodesk Cloud Collaboration Application, BIM 360 Design, Collaboration, and Document Management has made significant advances in improving the aspects of collaborating in the AEC industry. It definitely would have made a difference with the job that I was managing back then. So anytime, anywhere, it's a reality now. For some of us, it's a new normal. For some of it, it's just normal. I certainly want to be that person on, on that beach there. Whether it's a lifestyle choice or a need or societal change, technology enables us to stay connected anytime and anywhere. In most cases, these software and in BIM 360's past, some of you may be familiar with C4R, there was different software for different workflows, and this created different silos of data. With the new BIM 360, it is built on one data platform, Forge. And because of this one platform, this allows for third-party applications to link and extract data from BIM 360. One platform allows project teams to run across all phases of the project without worrying to have to worry about differences or silos. The one central place for all data for all your team members. 50 or 4 different file formats, including Microsoft Office, Word, Excel. Integrated administration meant team members could actually control the data itself. Therefore, you don't have to wait for ID to restore something. And that Forge platform allows us to link to third-party applications like Bluebeam. And if there's a concern about privacy, data privacy, the data in the cloud is actually encrypted. I'm sure many of you online are already using online banking. Lots of personal information out there. So if you feel comfortable with online banking, then you should feel more than comfortable with using Revit in the cloud. Project teams can access and use data being populated in the project in BIM 360. And the great thing about the unlimited data storage and unlimited number of projects you could have in BIM 360, you no longer have to wait for IT, like I said, to restore a file from last year because your client wants to go back to a previous version. And you don't want to hear IT staff asking, to delete unused data because the servers are full. And we know we like to save lots, just in case. Project collaboration, started well before Revit models were actually created. Like your company's project file servers, document management is the single data repository for BIM 360 where controlled access to all project documents, plans, and models live. Every project team members, especially the non-Revit users, will be collaborating with files that live here. The 4 key functions to the BIM 360 document management, it is the single data repository for all your files. You can control access, and it generates automatic file versions that's providing you a complete history of all your files. And that means all of it. Nothing ever gets actually deleted. It supports 2D and 3D files. So whether it's a PDF or a Revit model, and allow you to actually mark up, the files themselves and actually create issues. Just like your project servers, you can actually generate folders. You can set permissions to control that user access. And then, like I said, you can actually share your files as well. So you can also share your files with people outside of your team. Version control is essential in an organized project. But it's not always the easiest thing to manage. So many people will handle your project documents many times from its first iteration to the final one. You know the drill. You search, you download, you work, you upload, and you repeat again. Version control in BIM 360 gives you the ability to actually make comments and mark up files so you can actually be more impactful on the changes that you actually upload when you upload a new model. Visually compare how the model progresses at every version and see clearly the major additions and deletions. And you can see that graphically here in the image there. With version history, you can also be alerted when versions being viewed is not the actually most current version. Whether you're working with 2D documents or models, BIM 360 capabilities will support the way you actually want to work. I have conducted many Revit for project managers training in my past. And in many cases, project managers just don't have the time to actually learn Revit, and it's largely due to their other responsibilities in actually running a project. In my experience, the projects with the project managers that have knowledge of Revit has a significantly more productive impact for the team. BIM 360 bridges that gap between how we work with Revit and our non-Revit users. Users can actually quickly navigate between 2D and 3D views, making it easier to understand design intent. Control what you actually want to share, 2D and 3D directly actually from Revit. So you eliminate that need to actually create the unnecessary PDFs every week, or whenever you actually PM or that non-Revit users, can't actually open up Revit to actually even look at a view or navigate around that model. Eliminating the need to actually create PDF so frequently, from views from the view it's actually published within document management. Create and edit and share those 2D or 3D design markups with the other project teams themselves. Model saved minutes before your coordination meeting gives you actually the opportunity to actually bring that up, review, mark it up, and then you're actually working with the most current data, and it can have immediate action before you actually even leave the meeting. This is whether it's virtual or whether you're actually doing that in person. In addition to actually markups, when questions or problems arise, during design or constructability reviews, they actually need to be communicated. Document issues, help us resolve problems that do not require a formal RFI. Issues can be created by just dropping a pin in a location on the drawing or model, and then assigned issues, and then assigned to the issues are then assigned to team members along with due dates. This soon will actually be available for you to directly to actually do within Revit itself. All issues logged are tracked, making it actually much easier to actually understand overall project and document issues that can be addressed in a timely manner and by the right people. As I said earlier, document management is the central repository for all your files. So how do we know, and I mean all the architects, the engineers, mechanical, electrical, structural, any other disciplines that need to work in one central location? Once a project folder is set up in BIM 360, which is typically done by hosted by your prime consultant, the team would then actually create folders, assign permissions, and then wherever way you go, you go create your models, you start sharing your files into BIM 360. It's never back on local servers again. You get notified of changes. You can review the models that you get from the other team members. You consume and link models from the other team members within this space. Your functionality within Revit actually does not change at all. What does change is how you exchange and the time that you actually spend in preparing and reviewing the models and packages with your project team through the life cycle of that project. Project teams has a visual timeline of the project packages in the design timeline you see. So the design timeline illustrates the exchange of data of packages that collaborating teams have shared and consumed through the life cycle of that project. A package in BIM 360 basically is a container that allows you to bundle your team's Revit models and the sets to share with the other teams. You get to choose what views from the model you want to share, 3D or 2D. In addition, in the traditional workflow, these packages would be actually prepared by a dedicated staff for about an hour or so, each team member. They create a data zip file with your models, your PDFs, and then you actually would upload to an FTP or a Dropbox or a Google Drive. He or she would then also archive all these files in an incoming and outgoing folders on your local servers. This won't actually be necessary with BIM 360. A history of all the packages are easily accessible through the life of that project in BIM 360. So no more navigating folders to find the latest information. Publish sheets directly from Revit in BIM 360s. And if you know how to set up print settings within Revit, then you know how to set up publish settings as well. And that's how long it takes. Revit models, before consuming to update your backgrounds, link automatically. BIM 360 Design will automatically display the additions, your deletions, any moved elements of the current package to the previous package. And you can actually see the properties of the selected elements as well. And project teams can choose whatever linking method they actually want. You do have the ability to choose even live linking so that your entire project team's models are up to date when teams are actually synchronizing to Central. BIM 360 just makes it a lot easier and faster, leaving teams a lot more time to actually address other project issues or needs. Collaborating strong together means collaborating with good, clean, and consistent data as well. And I'm sure many of you know that model health of all your files impacts your daily productivity. Your models may be filled with outdated data and unnecessary content. The model is running slow. Why isn't the team using the most current standards? Why does this happen? Well, there's just so many files to choose from. Some of you have desktops that look like this. When the file structures get out of hand very quickly, you don't know where to go. File names are not enough to actually identify, the elements that you need. So let's just import it and give it a try, or if you're unable and it's difficult to access, the company resources because you're outside the office, then you're gonna have to go through VPN. Content lives in multiple different locations and you're just not sure what is correct. So you just grab it also from the web. So CCC, they're industry leaders in developing Revit productivity tools. The tools developed are for everyday users, on the project and your BIM managers. Many of you have already actually seen the tools that you see here, but we're gonna actually focus on HIVE. It's the content management system. The pain points in the traditional office resources typically are that users actually get lost. They waste time in navigating through a bunch of folders. Folder structures actually, like I said, don't actually display the critical information that you need. There's no detail about the file. There's no tags. There's no metadata that you can actually search. Files, file names, like I said, don't distinguish between the content and for its appropriate use. Maintaining, updating, and improving this content library across multiple departments or locations can actually be very tedious for your BIM managers. HIVE, the content management system, is actually easy to use, to find things, and actually to manage. It's actually designed specifically for the AEC industry. Administration is quite easy, and you are able to then to search content independently of the folders themselves, search metadata, including tags, custom tags, and it actually can be hosted whether it's in the cloud or on your local servers. Administrators are actually setting up HIVE as the one central repository again for all the company resources, can actually control access. So content can actually be generated, libraries are created, you're populating the files themselves, the folders. Place any of your company standards in there, whether it's, PDFs, Excel documents, Word documents. Upload your CAD blocks for those CAD users still. Upload your entire Revit library, your warehouse file itself for instant, for direct and instant Revit consumption. The library that you have, your Revit library probably includes loadable families, system families, schedules, typical drafting details, views, and even standard sheets itself. Project libraries can be stored, project libraries can also actually be shared with your external team members as well. So if you can actually do a Google search, you can actually do a HIVE search. That's how easy it is. Search all the content independent of folders. Search the metadata files, like I said, including the tags. And so the search doesn't have to be included. So the search doesn't have to be included in the actual content of the file name. It can actually look deep into the Revit parameters themselves. Or narrow your searches, by using the added filters. So you can search by tags, the Revit categories, or advanced filters where you can identify who, you can put in who or when the content was actually added. Cloud hosted content makes it easier and much faster to access. So the direct plugin within Revit allows you to have direct and instant consumption. So if you need that specific wall style, you no longer need to go to the out-of-box, the transfer project file standards tool. That will basically bring in all the walls that you actually don't need when you actually just need that one, right? The CTC tool will allow you to import just that one style and that one type that you actually selected. So it's just that one wall. Selective importing of content keep your models cleaner, and it's more efficient to work with. Your internal and external team members will actually be much happier about that. So just like BIM 360, HIVE can be administered through a web portal as well. Organize your content library and tags that most benefits your staff, and control your access either by user level or by group level. There's a saying there that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So inside of HIVE, there's also a project activity logger that runs silently within Revit. It's actually designed to help project managers and BIM managers about the various Revit metrics for that project and the models themselves. This will help your BIM managers actually troubleshoot model issues without actually having to open up the Revit models and understand the overall company's Revit productivity. Metrics captures include such things as the hours spent on the models, your team's contributions, the file sizes, the sync to central times, the model warnings, and the errors. All valuable information to understanding how well or not so well the models are actually being generated. Collaborating strong together, it means we're faster, more efficient Revit collaboration. HIVE and BIM 360 alone or together contribute to increased productivity, to be on time and on budget. A single repository for all your project data and office resources for all your project files. So less time actually wasted exchanging files, commenting, or just using the files. Workflows will support 2D and 3D collaboration. Like I said, I look at the BIM 360 as that great bridge between your 2D and your 3D worlds. Access this information anytime and anywhere. With this type of access, Revit models, whether it's the Revit models or even content itself, your design team won't be wasting time. VPN is actually very challenging, and it is sometimes very painful. Virtual co-location means that distributed design teams and remote staff can actually model and mark up your 2D and 3D files wherever they happen to be. And that translates to lower travel and office expenses. And basically a happier designer, a happier you. Your firm's physical address doesn't actually matter anymore. Secured and finally, when BIM 360 with BIM 360, whether it's BIM 360 or HIVE, you have the actual ability to control access and use the content in a secured environment. All activity of the project distributed are captured and actually logged for both applications. No project teams can actually say they never received a new model update. Technology has enabled us to actually work together and work together better. Communication is more than just words and sharing documents. BIM 360 and HIVE are tools that can help reduce barriers and nurtures more efficient collaboration. So stronger together, collaborating. Thank you. So I'll just open this up to some questions.
Had one here that I was going to mention, and I think Tom is joining on as well. So somebody asked about, let me just go to that, about firewall issues. Is that something that you've run into with BIM 360?
No, I have not. So no, that has not been an issue with any of the clients that I've actually dealt with. So it would be pretty much the same thing as what most companies have right now in terms of whitelisting Autodesk.
Right. Yeah, and I noticed the site as well that gives you the IP addresses and ports and all that's needed so that you can whitelist all of the servers that are needed. So thank you for that.
So I had a question. So 360 Docs, Autodesk developed, and then they acquired PlaneGrid a couple of years ago, I guess. How are these systems coalescing? They have some overlapping functionality. Are they distinct? Can you push information back and forth? Are they still working through that transition?
They're still actually working through that, but it will ultimately, BIM 360 Document Manage will actually support, so there will be that linkage there, but the teams are actually still working on that connectivity and then the interoperability of the two.
Just going to put a poll out there if that's okay. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, go ahead.
But you can carry on while people answer that.
Yeah, another question about the setup process. So SolidCAD will get involved with, I guess, the owner or the primary consultant to set up the Forge system or the 360 doc system at the early stages. Like, what's that process look like? Like, how do you get everyone around a table? What are the key things that you need to work through? Decision points, who does what? What's that process look like? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I've implemented this in a variety of different ways, right? And with different groups themselves. So let's start with the most ideal, right, is when I actually have an entire project team, right? So I'll have my prime, typically it'll be my architects, right? And they'll invite their, the other team members, their engineers. I've had some cases where the owner has been there, but that has not been as typical. It's typically the design team. And so basically, we help them with the setup. The setup itself of the site is actually quite easy. You get links, you sign up, you get the links, and away you go pretty much, and signing up for the site. And then in terms of implementing it, really, I work with the teams, and we do this implementation training where I basically am having, in this case, where it's the entire design team, and I go through everything that you would do as if you're actually setting up a project on a local server. So we'll go through setting up the folders themselves, and then setting up how permissions would actually be handled, understanding permissions themselves, so that every team member, from a project management standpoint, and the end users, the Revit end users, they understand how they're actually going to be using the folders that are set up. So we'll do all the activities to administer the project themselves, and also be able to understand how we're actually going to be able to, create our packages, get our models up there and create the packages, create those links, and then how are we going to, use the platform now as we are actually sharing our files, whether it's on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis. So that's kind of like the more ideal type scenarios when we're implementing this, because then the site's set up, and then the teams now go back, and then they actually just start working, and they start uploading all their files, because we would have done that all through the training itself. And then there's scenarios where I've dealt it with just the one design team, right? And so basically, once again, a lot of it happens to be with my architects, because they are the prime, and they're going to be the one hosting the project, and so they want to actually control more of the permissions on the folders and access to the information itself. So then it's by team basis. So then it would be, okay, I'm going to work with just the architectural team and show them how they're going to actually use it, and then I'll work with my engineering team separately as well. And in cases of working with owners, then basically majority of the owners I work with would then actually be focusing more on the document management side. So not necessarily working in that the Revit collaboration side, because they're not actually going to be doing that Revit work. So they wanted to be able to know, how can I actually still look at this model, navigate around that model? How can I look at all the sheets that are actually being created themselves, and they can mark up and provide feedback, if necessary. So that's all done in that one location, document management.
So for a system like this, like a common data environment, You have many companies sharing their potentially proprietary information into the system. Who controls security, access to data? How do you manage that, the intellectual property aspect of it at the beginning of a project? And at the end of the day, is it, I mean, it's not an Autodesk product, I'm sure it's secure, but there's often questions about where the servers are located, that sort of thing, because you are moving to a cloud environment.
Right. So cloud environment, and it is on Amazon Web Services. The data is encrypted. So, basically, like I said, that, if you're actually doing online banking, you should be quite secure about having this data up there. In terms of, when you get started.
Located in Canada, or are they all like international?
In the US, they're actually in the US. You have the choice of going to the US or I believe it's Ireland as well. Okay. Got the 2 locations, and most of our clients are actually, they're working with the data sitting in the US as well. Yeah. Right, that's where it typically happens. Now, typically, majority of the time, I'd say that it is being hosted. The projects are being hosted by your prime consultants, so typically your architects, right? And in terms of the ownership and who's actually going to be the person to actually manage the permissions and access, who's ever hosting that project is going to have the main control, right? And typically what I usually have teams do is then, you're going to create basically team folders within the system. And basically you want to actually give your team. So if I'm the architect, I actually want to actually give my engineers, my structural engineer, my mechanical, or even when I have my contractors on board as well, I want to set up folders that it's their space and they can do what they want. So then I will actually give, typically the project managers, control of their own space itself. And so they can go and add additional folders that they need to on top of the ones that I specifically need to do that model coordination.
Right.
So that way.
Do contractors utilize the data during construction, or do they typically, at the end of the design process, all the information is extracted, the contract documents go into whatever system the contractor is using, or do you see these tools bridging forward into the building process?
Oh, the tools do actually bridge into the construction side as well. So today's conversation is focusing on the design side, but yeah. So the data that we're actually creating right now, right? It all is just data. You can continue to use this data once you get into construction itself, right? So all those RFIs, so all the sheets that you're creating, all the models, all that stuff can still stay in here, depending on who's hosting the project itself. What's happening more typically right now is, once we've issued for construction, the entire model and typically we still have people creating sets at the milestones. So then that just gets now uploaded to, usually our GC, where then they want to control.
Are they bringing that into Construct Connect, the tendering platform that Autodesk has now? Are you able to push data directly into that for tendering?
One thing I just wanted to, if you don't mind, I just wanted to jump in on one of the questions there was about the control of the data and where it's hosted and how that's hosted. Many people are using Dropbox, things like that. Many of those servers are also in the US, and there's no permission control. Yeah. So you can't control who downloads or who uploads or if links are passed around. So there is a security advantage to BIM 360, even though the data is
hosting in Ireland if you wanted to. Although the path of the data might pass through the US anyways. I mean,
no one's afraid of the Irish.
Yeah.
Okay, they can have our data. No, I'm kidding. But there are treaties between countries to manage data. That's probably a whole other conversation, but I just wanted to give that other viewpoint about how data is already shared on clouds. It's just not sort of openly known and talked about very much. Sorry, you were asking about the tendering side of things, Building Connected?
Yeah, but really quick, because we are running short here, please.
Okay, I'm going to let Lichu talk about that, unless you'd like me to answer that.
with the Autodesk Connected Cloud, it is fairly new right now, and so they are still actually working on what's actually going to happen. I do know that they are making the bridges to that with what's actually happening within BIM 360 and that integration with all the other applications that eventually you'll be able to do in that other space.
Yeah, the construction cloud.
Assemble is cool. So that's on the estimation side. So
right.
They've got a lot of good things cooking, but yeah, they're still working on really integrating it all together. So be exciting over the next few months.
This was really excellent, and we appreciate SolidCAD taking the time. Yeah.
No problem.
We did have a couple more questions coming in about HIVE, but I think we're out of time, unfortunately. But obviously, they're both available if you want to contact them directly. And, we'll try to explore other avenues, maybe get to do a presentation at an upcoming event around HIVE. I think it was pretty cool, that system. And I really appreciate you taking the time for us, and I enjoyed the presentation. And we're going to move on to the next room.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy the conference, everyone.